Have you ever bought something you truly wanted? Something you could clearly afford without any real financial pressure. And yet, instead of feeling happy or satisfied, you felt a strange sense of guilt creeping in. It's a confusing feeling. On one hand, you know logically that you've done nothing wrong. You've worked for your money, you've earned it, and you're allowed to spend it. But on the other hand, there's this quiet voice in your mind that starts questioning your decision. It asks things like, was that really necessary? Or, what if I need that money later? And suddenly, what should have been a positive experience turns into something uncomfortable. If you've ever experienced this, you are not alone. In fact, this is far more common than most people realize. And more importantly, this feeling is not really about money itself. It is deeply rooted in psychology. To understand why this happens, we need to go back to where your relationship with money actually began. For most people, that starts in childhood. Think about the kind of messages you heard growing up. Maybe your parents often said things like, "We can't afford that," or "Money is hard to earn," or "Don't waste money." Even if those statements were meant to teach responsibility, they also planted something deeper in your mind. As a child, you didn't question those ideas. You absorbed them. Over time, they became beliefs, and those beliefs slowly shaped how you see money today. So even if your financial situation has changed as an adult, your subconscious mind may still be operating based on those early experiences. This is why spending money can sometimes trigger an emotional reaction that doesn't match your current reality. Your mind is not responding to your present situation. It is reacting to old patterns that were formed years ago. Another important factor is how your brain is designed to work. Your brain's primary job is not to make you happy. Its main goal is to keep you safe. There is a part of your brain that is constantly scanning for potential risks, and for many people, losing money is interpreted as a possible threat. So even when you know logically that you can afford something, your emotional brain may still respond with caution. It starts asking questions about the future. It wonders what might go wrong. It imagines worst-case scenarios. This creates a conflict between logic and emotion. Your logical mind says, "This is fine, I can afford this." But your emotional mind says, "What if something unexpected happens later?" And in most cases, that emotional response is stronger because from an evolutionary perspective, being cautious helped humans survive. This is where the feeling of guilt often begins. It is not because you made a bad decision, but because your brain is trying to protect you, even when protection is not necessary. Another major reason behind this feeling is something known as a scarcity mindset. This is the belief that there is never enough, no matter how much you have. When you operate from a scarcity mindset, your brain constantly focuses on what could be lost, rather than what is already available. So when you spend money, instead of seeing it as an exchange for value, your mind interprets it as a reduction in resources. Even if that reduction is small and completely manageable, it still triggers a sense of discomfort. This is why people with a scarcity mindset often struggle to enjoy their money, even when they are financially stable. There is also an identity component to this. Over time, you develop a certain image of yourself when it comes to money. Maybe you see yourself as someone who is careful, responsible, and disciplined. These are positive traits, but they can also create internal pressure. When you spend money, even in a healthy and reasonable way, it can feel like you are going against that identity. It creates a subtle internal conflict, where one part of you wants to enjoy the moment, while another part wants to stay consistent with the idea of being careful with money. This conflict can lead to guilt, not because the action itself is wrong, but because it doesn't fully align with how you see yourself. Your brain also has a tendency to focus on the future, often in a negative way. It tries to predict what might go wrong, even when there is no clear reason to worry. You might find yourself thinking about possible emergencies, unexpected expenses, or situations where you might need more money. Even if these situations are unlikely, your brain treats them as real possibilities. As a result, spending money in the present moment starts to feel risky. Instead of enjoying what you have, you become focused on what you might lose. This creates a cycle where every purchase is followed by doubt, and every moment of enjoyment is overshadowed by worry. Interestingly, many people notice that they feel less guilty when spending money on others than when spending on themselves. This is not a coincidence. It is often the result of social conditioning. From a young age, many people are taught that spending on others is generous and kind, while spending on yourself can be seen as selfish or unnecessary. Over time, this belief becomes internalized. So even when you are simply taking care of your own needs or treating yourself, it can feel uncomfortable. But the truth is, there is nothing wrong with spending money on yourself. In fact, it is a normal and healthy part of life. The key is to develop a balanced perspective where you can both save responsibly and spend without guilt. Breaking free from this pattern starts with awareness. The next time you feel guilty after spending money, pause for a moment and observe the feeling. Instead of immediately accepting it as truth, try to understand where it is coming from. Ask yourself whether this feeling is based on your current reality or on past conditioning. In many cases, you will find that the guilt is not actually justified. It is simply a learned response that no longer serves you. Another helpful step is to redefine what spending means to you. Instead of viewing it as a loss, try to see it as an exchange. You are not just giving away money, you are receiving something in return, whether it is comfort, convenience, experience, or personal satisfaction. When you shift your perspective in this way, spending becomes less about loss and more about value. It can also be helpful to create a clear structure for your finances. For example, setting aside a specific portion of your income for guilt-free spending can make a big difference. When you know that this money is meant to be used, it becomes easier to enjoy it without overthinking. Ultimately, the goal is not to stop caring about money. Being mindful and responsible with your finances is important, but there is a difference between being responsible and being controlled by fear. When guilt becomes a constant part of your spending decisions, it takes away your ability to fully enjoy the life you are working so hard to build. At the end of the day, money is not just a practical tool, it is also emotional. And if you don't address the emotional side of it, no amount of financial stability will completely remove the discomfort. The good news is that once you become aware of these patterns, you can start to change them. You can begin to question the beliefs that no longer serve you and replace them with healthier, more balanced perspectives. So the next time you spend money and feel that familiar sense of guilt, take a step back and ask yourself a simple question. Is this feeling based on reality, or is it just an old belief that I've been carrying for years? That one question can begin to shift everything. And over time, as you continue to challenge those patterns, you may find that spending money no longer feels like something to fear, but something you can approach with clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. If this made you reflect on your own relationship with money, take a moment to think about your experiences. Do you often feel guilty when you spend, even when you know you can afford it? You're not alone in this, and understanding it is the first step toward changing it. If you found this helpful and want to explore more insights into how your mind works, make sure to subscribe to Psychology Explained, because this is just the beginning of understanding yourself on a deeper level.